welcome. When life gets hectic, when you're juggling work and kids, packing tiffins while on conference calls with the office, traveling out of town on a work trip, everybody could do with a little help. But some of us have more than others. Permanent help, live-in help, who are on call 24/7. And the irony is that while we head out to our workplaces where we're governed by labor laws and can access benefits like maternity leave and pension plans, those who make it possible for us to work by looking after our homes and caring for our children, really helping keep our sanity intact, are not accorded the same rights. Indian domestic workers, who are mostly female, many of them minors, have endured abuse and exploitation for far too long by their employers. The abuse ranges from withholding of wages to starvation, not allowing time for sleep or rest, beatings, torture, and even sexual exploitation. How do we help India's domestic help secure basic dignity in labor? Who will help India's domestic help? On the show today, we have Tripti Lahiri. She's the author of Made in India. Tripti, let me start first by playing devil's advocate, right? Yes, we know it is extremely hard to be a domestic help in a stranger's home, in an unknown town, in a new city. Like you say in your book, we eat first, they eat later. We live up front, they live in the back. On the other hand, some people would say that at least it's better off than their lives back home, which would have probably involved back-breaking, shoulder-numbing agricultural labor. Or is that just something we all say to make ourselves feel better?
So I guess it's a good question. It's what should be your standard? Do you want to be the same or just only very slightly better than the lives people are leaving behind? Or if you're doing very well in this new India where there are different kinds of economic opportunities for different people, do you also want to see that maybe we don't have to do things the way we used to do them or the way has been handed down to us, but maybe we could also bring some of those changes we're seeing in our own work lives into other people's work lives who are helping us and working in our homes.
But this all stems really from inequality. And Amrita, this inequality really is what allows people like you and me to work, right? If you're a working woman in India today, it seems like you can only do that if you have somebody else who's helping you, because you can't come home and work.
I'm sure this is the case in families where, people where where two parents work. It might well be the case in families where two parents don't work. I feel across the board, it is an acute dependency that as a culture we have gotten completely accustomed to. It's a really taken for granted dependency. And I say this based on the people I've spoken to who work as domestic help. The one thing that they always give me that feeling is that people can't do without them. There's complete panic if they have to go anywhere, even for an hour. That is the level at which a well-off Indian household depends on its staff. And I think it's largely an attitudinal, habitual thing. And that dependency affects the day-to-day life of a person. Yeah. And it's unfortunate when in a home, the relationships become so, the boundaries become so blurred in a relationship that sometimes it's almost emotionally exploitative if it's not physically exploitative.
Now that's interesting because you corrected me in a sense. I was leading somewhere where I was assuming that we're increasingly depending on household help because both partners are working. And in India, there's no concept of the household help as a woman's is the woman's work, unlike abroad, especially in America, where at least it's shared, if not divided equally. But what you're saying, pointing out, is even in homes where the mothers or the wives or the women are not working, we're still going to use domestic help if you can afford it.
In the accounts I've heard, I don't see any sort of specific distinction between working families, non-working families. I just see it as a household issue. And the whole household is acutely dependent on a very small set of people, sometimes just one person or two, who, they seem to not be able to live without, even for an hour, even for that one Sunday.
And Mr. Khan, the other irony is that in our private sector lives, we expect equality, we expect maternity leave, we expect social benefits, but then there seems to be a blind spot when we come home, because when we come home, we don't expect to give the same, or we would be outraged if we were demanded the same by our help.
Not only blind spot, you turn blind to it actually. We created this body for the first time. Yeah. It's a national level body. I'm the chairman of Domestic Worker Sector Skill Council. The biggest hurdle that we are facing today is mindset. Because this kind of situation where nearly 20 million domestic workers in India, you understand that's the figure which we come across. From village to big cities, we have got domestic workers at homes. And then they don't realize that here is a person, let's say a woman, 90% being women, that she is a working person, and yet her position as a worker goes totally unrecognized. They are the worst among the unorganized sector. Unorganized sector, 93% already in the Indian economy, they are there. But in the unorganized sector, this sector happens to be the worst, the most deprived, for the simple reason we turn blind to the conditions that prevail in the household. And as you said, and probably are discussing, that this kind of typical situation prevails more in India and some other third world countries more prominently, where we can't do without domestic help. The biggest problem, as you perhaps mentioned, is attitudinal problem, that whether they are workers or not. Our first task is to create recognition, to give them some kind of sense of dignity, sense of position, sense of the fact that they are working people and they deserve same kind of treatment as any other worker. But they are not actually workers. India carries a huge tradition of slavery, I think. Probably it's a fallout of slavery of India. But we are into very, very aspirational trajectory. So the organization which I am heading today is supposed to create the change across the country, because we aspire that this huge sector comes of age, and these women, 90% of them, they get certain kind of basic wages, maternity, you mentioned about that, and some kind of weekly off, some kind of agreement with the employer and some other
things
person.
That we take for granted. But you mentioned attitudinal change. What about the government's attitude? Because you also said there are 20 million domestic help in the country, and as we were doing research on this show, we were just getting such varied figures about how many domestic help there are. It is so unregulated. If your government doesn't even know how many help you are, how are you even going to take this problem seriously?
KPMG, you know, the well-known body, KPMG brought out a figure.
That's the latest one, came out with a different study.
7.5 million.
Correct. That's different from what you just
told
quoted.
7.5 million. What we are doing really, I'm actually quoting from the draft national policy, which we are trying to work out. And there the number could be 25-30 million, because we are talking about those people who work in the household. You know, like child care, elderly care providers, housekeeping, jhadu pocha bartan type, you know, situation, and they can be live in, they can be live out. So the total number of these kind of people, as per census, I mean, I am referring to census position, which where when we find all types of workers, we find that at least 20-25 million happen to be working inside the home, and they get money also out of it. But they are not recognized as workers. I mean, for that matter, the Indian housewife is not recognized. The biggest grudge of a woman in India is, and rightly so, the entire household work is considered to be gratis or something, you know.
Correct. But the irony is now a middle class, upper middle class Indian woman can go get a job. She can be financially independent, and she can absolve herself of the drudgery of household work by employing somebody else and transferring it on, the responsibility and the drudgery on
that's a new point. That's a very, very interesting new point you are saying that.
Woman. We have Nanki, who actually works as domestic help in a home here in Delhi. Nanki, आप किसी के घर में काम करते थे, आपके साथ क्या हुआ?
हमारे साथ काम बहुत कराते हैं, बहुत काम कराते थे, और खाने पीने के लिए भी रोकते थे कि ये मत खाना, इसको रख देना, सुबह के लिए बच्चे के लिए डाल देना, और सारा काम करवाते थे।
बच्चे भी थे, मतलब आप सुबह जल्दी शुरू करते थे स्कूल बस आने से पहले?
6 बजे।
6 बजे।
उनका 7 बजे की उनका बस थी।
अच्छा।
तो 6 बजे उठती थी, सारा नाश्ता उसके लिए बना देती थी, पैक कर देती थी, खाने के लिए भी देती थी, लेके भी जाते थे। उसके बाद भैया लोग भी उसका खाना पीना के काम करते थे।
और रात को कितने बजे तक काम करते थे आप?
12-1 बज जाता था।
हर रात 1 बजे?
हर रात। कभी खाना खाने के बाद कभी बोले चाय दे दो, कभी बोले दूध दे दो, सोने जाने नहीं देते थे।
ओके।
और 2 जन थे, फिर भी काम बहुत कराते थे हमारे से।
आप वहाँ पे रहते थे रात को भी? आप
नहीं, रात को ही पे रहते थे।
आपने छोड़ा क्यों नहीं ये काम? क्योंकि 20 लाख लोग हैं इस देश में जो हर दिन उनके घर में स्टाफ के लिए ढूंढ रहे हैं, तो अगर आप छोड़ सकते थे, ये नौकरी चली गई तो कोई और मिल जाती नहीं?
11 महीने के लिए देते हैं ना, तो 11 महीने के लिए वहाँ पे करना होता है, तो इसीलिए मैं वहाँ पे करती थी। चलो 1 साल कर लेती हूँ, उसके बाद चले जाती हूँ। मैं 17 साल से काम कर, 2001 से ही, तो मेरे को कई घर में काम किया है, कई घर मेरे को अच्छा नहीं मिला था।
Got it. Okay, so it's long working hours, no pay, no time for rest. A lot of these workers are just signing up for things when they don't even know what they're signing up for, don't even know how to sign off in many cases. Tripti, you wanted to step in. It seems like it's a wider problem. It's not just the help, obviously, but it's also the agents. Like she's saying, in her case, she was tied to this job for a year.
Yeah. So I just want to come back to the numbers for a second. Because I was researching the book, I have to say it's really very hard to get concrete numbers, and I feel that it is important to have them because you want to know how many workers there are, you want to know what you're dealing with, and I did find everything from 20 million to at times 4 million KPMGs.
That's the same problem we had.
So and also even and the same thing translates, the same discrepancies and lack of clarity often does translate to how law is communicated. So it becomes very hard for people to know, at what point is somebody preventing someone from going home because they negotiated that, okay, don't go home, go at a more convenient time. And at what point has it become actually they are not being allowed to go home? I was hampered in writing about it, and I'm sure social workers are hampered in addressing it because there's a lack of clarity in everything from numbers to the law at times.
Ravi, your organization has worked for years in this sector, and you've rescued many women and many children from homes where they've been abused, and often you find the abuser is a woman herself.
Yeah.
आपके जहाँ पे आप काम करते थे वो क्या करते थे?
वो आंटी अंकल भी डॉक्टर थे दोनों, और उसकी बहू भी डॉक्टर थी, और उसके बेटा इंजीनियर थे, ऑफिस
सब पढ़े लिखे थे,
सब पढ़े लिखे, सब काम कर रहे थे, अपना 2 बच्चे थे, वो स्कूल जा रहे थे.
All right. Okay. So interestingly, so here the abusers are also caregivers in their own professional world. They are like doctors, nurses, teachers. Is that the norm?
Yes, in most of the cases they are from the upper middle class, highly educated, and they employ minor domestic workers. You have to, when you talk about domestic workers, you have to see that there is a huge demand, and the demand is being met by bringing in young girls from various villages of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, all of these, and no one wants to keep a person who is above 18 or a major person, because they prefer that, because being a child, the person is not able to protest, not able to, you can make him or her do the same jobs.
They're more malleable, they're more ductile, and they'll probably put up with much more.
Yes, much more. And then and even in the domestic way, we have to see the demand for the minor girls actually.
Wow. So Nanki is an adult, and she still stayed for a year putting up with all of this. So imagine what a child would put up with.
Yes, and we have come across cases of sexual exploitation. We have come across beaten black and blue, not kept in the latrines, huge amount of wounds. Since there is no legislation on domestic workers, no legislation on placement agencies, that is where the government has failed, because there is so much huge demand, but there is no legislation, nothing, where people can be held accountable. And these are young, illiterate girls, someone who has no access to justice, who doesn't know where to ask help. Even if she is exploited, she is within her own self, and it's a very bleak situation, and then they don't get their salaries. And if they are rescued, they are just sent to their homes. Now, recently we have had the victim compensation scheme, where the government has now been offering some of the compensation. But even in Delhi, where the Delhi placement executive order is being implemented under the orders of the High Court, we still see there is a huge demand of minor girls, and this is being catered by placement agencies. And placement agencies are itself huge trafficking hubs, because some of them recently a Panna Lal, a major trafficker of Jharkhand, earned crores of rupees, and his case is being prosecuted in Jharkhand. And my take is that government has failed. We have to have a legislation on placement agencies. Of course, some of the states have been trying to make some of the place, but we need a central law, because a victim is trafficked from some place, exploited in other place, and then sent to another state.
Correct. And
so
the cycle continues.
that's why we need a central law.
No, I'd like to point out.
The question here is, we need a central law, he says, right? And why has the government not done that? India, for example, has yet to ratify the ILO's International Domestic Workers Convention.
ये सबों के लिए जानने की आवश्यकता है इसकी. To regulate placement agencies, there is a law in Chhattisgarh, number one. The second law, there was a bill in Delhi which has not translated in law so far, so we are trying to convert that into a law. Now the best law as of now, which is yet to get the assent of governor, but the law has been passed by the assembly. that is in Jharkhand. The Jharkhand, it is called Placement Agencies and Domestic Workers Regulation Bill. Abhi bill chal raha hai ye, and that provides for everything. I had a chance to help in the drafting. मैं झारखंड गया, बातचीत हुई, तो वो कानून अगर बन जाता है, जो झारखंड का कानून बन जाता है, तो हम लोगों का इरादा ये है, हम लोग चाहते हैं कि सरकार की मदद से हम इस कानून को एक राष्ट्रव्यापी बनाएं. We want to extend.
You already had a draft Domestic Workers Welfare Social Security Act, right, in 2010. That's just been gathering dust. I'm just trying to understand,
No,
is there
this
no
particular
political
law,
will
now
behind it?
there are 2 points I would like to mention. Number one, the human trafficking law is about to be finalized and it's going to be placed in the parliament. Trafficking was defined after Nirbhaya case. That trafficking also brings the whole thing within the ambit of law. So now legal situation is improving, and there is a very strong possibility that maybe in next 1 or 2 years time, the domestic workers situation will at least legally improve. Then placement agencies, who are definitely majority of them are very irresponsible. So this is a situation that prevails today. But then the entire government's policy, the legislation, etc., we are trying to bring about the change. And that is
talking about placement agencies, let's bring in Nikhil here. He's a domestic. Nikhil, your website says that you're a placement company, the first of its kind in India, that places and trains workers in a professional and socially responsible manner.
Right.
How's business? I mean, is there a demand? Because I'm sure if you have to be socially responsible, it costs money. That means you're going to have to give leave, you're going to have to probably take care of healthcare and other things. So is there a demand? Are you guys doing well at work?
Yes, we do work in this space. So we want to ensure that this becomes a profession like any other profession, which has all the characteristics of a profession, like leaves, like duration being fixed. And we do get clients whom we serve through our company. We are a profitable organization. Through this process, we are able to place more than 500 people, and we have trained more than 3,000 people so far. Our highest placement last year was for 35,000 rupees for a cook.
No, good for them, but that can't be the reality, right? We need to have a fair understanding of demand and supply. Not everybody can afford 35,000 for a cook.
What I was answering was that there is a demand.
Okay.
Right? There are people who are willing to go through the entire process that we go through.
And pay well for good service.
And pay well for good service.
Excellent.
And this is also to be enforced. So wherever it's buy-in is not as much, we train. Right? We train both sides. We train the client where our candidate is being hired, and we also train the candidate because for her also.
No, you mean you train the client, the employer?
Yeah, we counsel them.
Okay, before they take on the help.
Yeah.
What kind of counseling do you have to give an employer?
So as we were earlier talking about, it's more of a cultural thing. So this could be a news to someone that 4 leaves in a month are mandatory, right? And 15 days for a live-in candidate, somebody who works for 24 hours. For a live-in candidate, it's mandatory to, in our organization, it is mandatory to provide an annual leave of 15 to 20 days. So these are things which we counsel them on and tell them that you have to respect their space, both in terms of physical, in terms of time.
I'd just like to say that, to this point, I feel that the counseling of employers is hugely needed across this country, because that's, where the problem's always going to eventually end up. Right. This thing that, figure out what you're going to do on a Sunday. If you can afford to have someone live in, maybe you can afford to hire somebody else who comes in on a Sunday but doesn't come in on a Saturday. Sure. Figure it out if you have the cash. And the very notion of this, मैं 24 घंटे के लिए, we need someone, आपको 24 घंटे के लिए कोई चाहिए, the very fact that we actually think that we have someone 24 hours, where on earth does that make sense in any other field of work, that someone is there 24 hours, 7 days a week? It's an absurd notion.
Yeah,
they can negotiate. They can negotiate because there is a huge demand. Everybody wants. So demand wise, since demand is there, let me inform you, a time will come.
But you don't allow them even to unionize, right?
They will negotiate. They will negotiate once we have created a situation where it converts into some kind of profession like they have done. The demand will create negotiability. Right.
Okay, so Amrita points out the demands on these domestic help are so absurd, and they seem to be getting even more absurd. Is it true that now people are even demanding you have good-looking help? Have you ever gotten that request?
I don't think
no,
people will dare
not-
like
not
that.
No, in our research, Amrita,
I saw it on a website.
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
People
it's
who've
good.
been hired
They
only
should be
that-
banned, I am sure. Show me the website.
I saw
I'll
it
get
on
it
the
banned. Show me the
I've been
website.
told by people that they were hired because they were smart looking and they wanted someone who's going to serve.
Smart
and
looking
look
is
nice.
fine, but
I saw it on a regular post on one of the
But even
portals.
skin color, fairness, these things do come into it actually. People
Well, I
want
think
someone
these-
who
these
clean,
things
being
can be
hygienic and
controlled.
clean
No.
is okay, but wanting someone who looks
No,
good.
no, no. Legally speaking, for example, and anything like that where you're demanding someone is smart and beautiful and things like that, I think we can definitely stop it.
But I want to go back to the negotiations for a minute. I think, look, it's great to have training and it's great to sort of have people who know what pay scales there are for different jobs. But the reason you do need laws that spell these things out is because those negotiations are going to end differently in different households. One household may say that, oh, okay, I hadn't thought about it, but maybe you're right, maybe I do owe you more. And another household may say like, no, we've paid the placement agency so much and now you have to just do this.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is, look at the incentives you've set up. Why is it that employers are willing to pay a salary or 2 months' salary to the agent? So then that agent places somebody 3 times, he makes as much for that as the woman does working every day for the whole year. So that's a very skewed incentive you're setting up as well.
But on the other hand, it's not always the maids who are at the receiving end, right? We've had, I think the rates of 700 crimes that are committed annually by domestic help. And who's looking out for the employers? Do the employers have any rights at all? So
The
let's go
RWAs
first.
are looking out for
that
them.
will come only when there is a legislation and accountability of both the parties are fixed.
Correct.
Until
Okay,
and unless there
we
is
have
no legislation.
one such employer, should I say former employer. This is Purnima, she's an advocate. You had not a very memorable experience with your help.
Yes, I had this lady from Chhattisgarh for about 7 years, and she and her sister was with me for last 1.5 years. So I run a very elaborate household. I have 2 flats in Vasant Kunj, where I live with my family in one, and in the other, my 82-year-old mother who's suffering with dementia and various health problems. She is there totally bedridden. She's on diapers, and I need 2 12-hour helps for her. Plus, in the other rooms, I run a PG for women, because what do I do with the other rooms? So this lady just decided to not turn up one day. And she brought her 2-year-old baby. She's 3 now, her baby. For 2 years, she was every day coming to my house. And I literally brought her up in my own arms. Everybody used to make fun of me. Is this your baby? But you're so fair and she's dark. Is she your baby? I go, no, she's not my baby. She's my help's daughter. I would carry her everywhere, and she was like, she's still so attached to me. And I celebrated her birthday all the 3 years, and she just ditched me. And one fine morning, my mother is in diapers, and there's nobody to change her diaper, and I have 2 dogs to walk, cook for 15 people. It took me a few days to figure out where did I go wrong. And till now, it's
must have gone wrong, because if, for example,
nothing. It is just that they probably needed a raise. I was paying them 15,000 each. That is the going rate in Vasant Kunj.
One lady or 2?
One lady.
So the sisters
12
left.
hours.
They left
Was she
you
the only
without
one?
notice.
Was she the
and
only
they
one
left
who
you
was
in the
looking
lurch.
after all that stuff?
No, there were 2 sisters, and they both left without giving her any notice. They left her in the lurch, is what she's saying.
So they just left me in a lurch, and till now, I am so heartbroken with the one who was with me for 7 years. That it's not that I'm worried about the cleaning. Of course, you get so many people around. So what happens to my right as an employer? I've been decent. Everybody who came to my house, they could never differentiate. They would ask me, is this your mate? I said, no, she's like a family member. Not make her
So
feel
you're
like
saying
a
she
mate.
wasn't as connected to you in hindsight as you were to her?
Probably. And I'm so hurt because it's almost like a family member is not there. It's not that a maid is missing. There are hundreds of maids who've been knocking my door because of the way my reputation is good in the colony, because they've seen how nicely I've kept her. So somebody who stayed with me for 7 years, obviously I've been a good employer. And they were so well built, both the sisters, because one of them told, somebody who I know, that, madam used to torture us. She said, "आप तो लगते नहीं हो कि आपको कोई torture कर सकता है, You don't look tortured from anywhere." So what about my rights? He's right. That if there is a legislature, so there is clarity as to, if there is a medical situation or anything, what happens to me? in a situation
What
like
is being
this?
proposed in
Nikhil,
the
Ahmed,
law?
would you like to respond to this?
No, what is being proposed in the law, I'm just telling you, because the Jharkhand law is now going to become it will be extended different parts of country. There is a tripartite agreement which may be signed, where you probably might get some relief, where whatever you are supposed to give, whatever is the minimum wages, number one, and your leave once a weekly off, number two, maternity if possible it's required, for example, at least once a year you allow the person to go back home and come back and things like that. All that is going to be provided. 8-hour work. 8-hour work also, because this lady told, आपने कहा ना कि आप 24 घंटे काम कर
6 a.m. to 1 o'clock.
यहाँ
No,
बहुत
but what
लोग ऐसे
Purnima is
कहने
saying is different. When you put all of this into the legislation or into the draft,
No, there is
what
some
about,
kind of.
are they supposed to give notice, for example, if you
Yes,
want to
yes,
leave?
It will
yes,
be ensured, yeah.
yes. They are supposed
it will
to give
bring in a
notice.
framework of rights and responsibilities.
That's the
उनकी भी
contract.
जिम्मेवारियां हैं, उनकी भी जिम्मेवारियां होंगी, जैसे इनकी बात सही है, लेकिन सवाल ये है कि you have to realize that ultimately she is a worker. She has right to go away.
I feel that you
She has
would
right to
definitely
go
be, I'm sure, at a loss for how to figure things out at short notice and probably emotionally hurt. But as your employee, she's actually probably she's not under any obligation beyond serving her notice period. And had there been some kind of a contract, you would know she has, breached this 3-month notice period. As for the heartbreak and how could she do that for me, that's just a personal thing that people have to deal with as in any interpersonal relationship. And in a lot of families where we've spoken to the help and to the employers, it is that complete blurring of lines where it becomes so emotional. It becomes this, I treated her so well, how could she do this to me? It further underlines that it's all about each family's sort of, you're a very good employer, so therefore she owes you that. But frankly, if things go as they should, she won't owe you beyond 3 months of notice.
No, but isn't there a flip side to this? I think what Purnima,
even if it is, you cannot keep somebody based on your emotional
connect.
I
agree, and I think, but I think there's a flip side to what Purnima said. She mentioned, she felt like they were family. The fact is, for our grandparents and for our parents, there was a feudal relationship with our health, right? They may not have paid them well, they may not have given them all these benefits, but they looked after them. They look after their kids or find their family members jobs. That's not the case with our generation. And isn't that what we need? Let's say, look, we're not family. Let's recognize this is an economic relationship. You're working in my home as domestic help, just as I get certain benefits at work. They need to get certain benefits on the job.
No, that's correct.
And that
it
is
has
why
to
the
be
legislation
recognized as a work.
as professional.
See, if it's a profession that everything, you go to office and come back.
No, but are you saying
institution,
Purnima was wrong then by actually having an emotional connect with this
See,
woman?
that is
by treating them as family, feeling like they were
the
family.
point is that is immaterial ultimately.
Yes.
Ultimately, when you recognize this work as a profession, that becomes immaterial. I'm sorry.
Okay, for a while it might be that the pendulum should swing the other way, because the problem is with these kinds of sort of faux family or family feelings, sometimes yes, it's good for the relationship, and there are other times where a lot of things go wrong because it's so sort of these ideas of what you owe me because we are now like family or so maybe it's better if it becomes a bit impersonal for a while. That is definitely the feeling of some people I've interviewed.
I think attachment is one thing. Emotional attachment can happen in any workplace. You can form bonds in any workplace. But I think the sense of obligation that they owe you because you treat them so well, that's different, and that shouldn't be confused.
And can you in any office, somebody might just depart and leave one day. I mean, I have friends who run businesses, and sometimes people who they've invested in do up and go. I mean, they don't like it, but they're not going to be like, oh, I did all this for them. Correct. I mean, you have to do things for people that work for you, and they can still leave you. It's not always great, but sometimes there are things going on in their life and you don't know what they are.
And similarly for you, right? You just because you're treating them as family, you're treating them well, doesn't mean you can forego on healthcare or a day off or anything else. Purnima, would you like to say anything in response to what everybody's been saying? Because they're saying basically nobody owes you anything. Nobody has an obligation to you.
See, in my
Just
case,
because you
it was a
treated them
very
well.
peculiar situation with my mother being so unwell. You see, you're part of the solution making with me. And you're the one who's suggesting, Didi, let's open the PG, I'll take care of everything. And then one fine day you're not there. And for 1.5 months, I was cooking for 15 people, cleaning up, taking care of my mother, running with,
So you're saying they wanted a raise. Would you have given them that raise?
Why not? But I mean, there has to be some discussion.
No, it's time, it's time we change, because see, now under the policy and programs, see, housekeeping, child care, elderly care, prenatal, postnatal care, baby care, these are various types of job roles which are now being developed. We have a plan to train 25 lakh women, and we shall, because already a couple of thousand are being trained and being placed also. So the employer-employee has to understand what is the need in the family. According to need, you have to get services. That's the point ultimately one has to see.
But again, talking about family, let's try and bring in the whole issue of what it's like working for foreigners, where they have more demarcated lines, unlike we do, where we say, okay, this is family, I come home, I expect you to make tea for me at 1, so what, I treat you like family. Let's go across to Sylvia. You're a foreigner. How long have you lived in India?
Almost 9 years now.
And do you have help at home?
Yes, I do.
Did you start off by having help?
I moved to Chennai in 2008, and I come from Finland, which is probably one of the most do-it-yourself countries, one of the most kind of egalitarian countries.
That's right. Oh, this region is where IKEA came from. Build everything on your own.
That was from Sweden. But
this
anyway,
region, I said region.
Strongly influenced by that. So when I moved to Chennai, and my landlady, she called me 2 days after that, are you fine with your new home? I said, well, it's fine otherwise, but how can you cook in the kitchen because there's no AC and Chennai is hot? So there was a long silence, and she said, but you have someone to help you. I said, like, should I have? Because like all my life, been combining family, kids, grocery shopping, cooking, scrubbing my toilets. So when then I finally got this lady, Purnima, so there was a mixture of kind of an embarrassment and gratitude that, wow, there is someone to mop my floors and someone to cook my food, because it never happened before. And I know some foreign ladies, they actually end up hiding in their bedrooms and so that the lady can clean the house and quickly get out, because we don't know how to manage, because we go to the trap of like being even overly grateful and maybe appearing very weak and soft, and it's really a tricky business. Even after so many years, I'm still...
there's a fine line. If you're too friendly, too kind, too nice, you might be taken for granted.
By some, not by everybody, but that is a risk. But like, it's really tricky, and the hierarchy of India, of course, is something that strikes us, because like...
And do you have children?
Not here.
But I can imagine foreigners, some of them are uncomfortable also with having their children see this, because they may be moving back abroad and they don't want their children to get used to the fact that somebody actually has to wait on them.
Yes, we had one Finnish family here, so they were very particular that their teenaged boys would make their own beds and keep all their stuff, because they don't want to corrupt them. One fine day, then they're like, who is there to make my bed?
And the other issue when you speak with foreigners, often they're accused by Indians of corrupting the maids by paying them what we would consider an indecent wage, which was probably a decent wage.
Well, I've been hearing that, of course, and then I have been here long enough to understand that if you look at certain Facebook groups like Delhi Dish or whatever, Delhi Expats, there is a tribe of domestic help. Some of them are so tech savvy that they are actually part of the group, so all their kids, then grown-up kids, kind of promote their parents and are kind of selling their services. So that's happening. And yes, many of them will not go back. Look, the girl that works for me now, she says she was very surprised. She says, ma'am, can I eat the same rice as you can? And like, can I really use the same plates? And I was like, wow. I mean, yes.
Well, that would not be the norm in many Indian homes. So, how do help feel, for example, after having worked for foreigners? Elizabeth has worked for foreigners, correct? Yeah. And tell us about your experience.
बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत अच्छा. मेरे को आज 20 साल हो गए हैं. मैंने स्टार्ट किया था when I'm 17. Start as a babysitter. Now I'm a chef. But जितने भी foreigners के पास मैंने काम किया, it was a super experience. कोई problem नहीं. Salary बहुत अच्छा था. आने जाने का घर का काम था, और I mean मैंने अपनी लाइफ में अभी जितना भी टॉर्चर मैं अभी सुन रही हूँ सबके बारे में, never heard in my life.
Because you worked for foreigners.
Yeah.
So would you work for an Indian household?
Yes, this is my last job actually. जो मैंने last job किया है वो Indian थे, but British के थे. वहाँ थोड़ी problem लगी मुझे. Actually उनका जो तरीका है shopping का वो थोड़ा मुझे अजीब लगा. They give me the list actually. वो मुझे list देते थे और बोलते थे कि 2 आलू 2 प्याज 1 टमाटर। अब सब्जी वाला मुझे ये कैसे देगा? कैसे देगा सब्जी?
But Elizabeth, maybe they want fresh food, right?
Yeah, that's
fresh
true,
food
but
daily.
fresh food भी एक लिमिट में आता है ना मैम, तो वो मैं एक मतलब इतना लंबा डिस्टेंस पार करके ऑटो रिक्शा वाले को 100 रुपए देके मैं वो 4 चीजें लेने जाऊंगी, तो ये तो बहुत बड़ी बेवकूफ़ी हुई। ये उनको अपना ही नुकसान हो गया ना मैम।
No, so you're looking out for them, but honestly, if given a choice, would you work for an Indian or prefer not to?
आई एम नॉट श्योर, मैंने कभी किया नहीं मैम, लेकिन अगर अच्छा फैमिली होगा तो डेफिनेटली व्हाई नॉट, वी आर आल्सो इंडियन। अगर फॉरेनर्स नहीं होंगे यहाँ तो कहाँ जाएंगे? वी हैव टू वर्क विद इंडियन ओनली। तो करूंगी, क्यों नहीं करूंगी मैम?
Okay, great. So go ahead, Nikhil. You want to add to that? What about male domestic help? Is it different for them? Are they treated better than women?
Number for male domestic help is lesser. However, like in professions like being a driver, in a profession like that of a cook, we may find a male working there. In terms of treatment, yes, I would say it will be a bit, different in case of male, because simply because the assertion of right will be more from employee side, and they would go. So when they have to go for a leave, they would go, right? So I mean,
see, we are talking about so many things, but I don't understand. Might be Mr. Amod Kant can explain this. That the problem is so huge, the demand is so huge, but the government is just not bringing in the legislation. The placement agency legislations, the legislation for domestic workers, where I have found in many rescue operations also people take in traffic victims from different places when they might not have treated her well, but suddenly there is an FIR there and they get caught. So there is a need, this legislation has to come, and before we start talking about what will be the contractual liabilities, let the legislation come, and that is what Mr. Khan's mandate might be, to tell the government to make it fast.
Absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, the placement order that has come in Delhi, for example, it could do a lot of good if it became a law and was widely implemented, because it requires that people go to houses and sort of register, find out who's there, what their ages are, what their wage are. Yeah, and also IDs that say where they're from. So a lot of those things, if they came out onto paper, you might find a lot of crimes.
See, once they are registered, once placement agency are registered, probably all others will become illegal.
But the law has to come for that.
That is going to happen. That's going to happen very soon.
And without a law, where does it leave women who are basically having trouble or being abused at home? Let's go across to one such person, Savita. Savita, आप ही घर में काम करते थे और आपके साथ क्या हुआ था?
मतलब मैं घर में वहाँ गाजियाबाद, इंदिरापुरम, वैशाली में काम करती थी। तो मेरे घर में बहुत प्रॉब्लम थी, खाने पीने की भी। 2 छोटे छोटे बच्चे, मतलब 2-3 दिन तक हमने खाना नहीं खाया था। तो मुझे किसी ने जॉब लगवाई किसी के घर में। तो वहाँ जो मैडम थी, मैंने उसे हमारी सारी हकीकत बता दी थी। मैं, मैडम हम बहुत परेशान हैं, तो आप थोड़ी मेरी मदद कर दो, मैं बच्चों को कम से कम रोटी तो खिला सकूं। तो मैडम अच्छी थी मतलब, लेकिन वो जो सर थे ना, उन्होंने सुन लिया था मेरी सारी बातें। तो मतलब 2-4 दिन मैंने वहाँ काम करा। तो फिर मैं रसोई में काम कर रही थी, तो सर आए, मैडम चली गई थी मंदिर। तो वो सर आए, मेरे को 500 रुपये दिया उन्होंने कि लो आपके घर में प्रॉब्लम है तो आप ये रखो। दूसरे दिन जब मैं गई उनके पास, तो उन्होंने, सर ने मुझे ये बोला, मैडम नहीं थी घर में, कि मैंने आपको कल 500 रुपया दिया था, उसके बारे में आपने कुछ सोचा? मैंने बोला सर आपने मेरी हेल्प करी है और मेरे बच्चों के लिए, तो मैं क्या सोचूं? कि नहीं, मैंने आपको इसीलिए दिया कि जब मैडम नहीं होती ना, तो आप मेरे घर में मेरे बेडरूम में आया करो। तो मैंने उसी समय चुपचाप डर के मारे काम छोड़ के घर आ गई थी।
Yeah, that's the hard reality.
So,
many places.
So, Amod, what would happen when there are cases of such abuse? If there's no law, what are they charged?
No. This is very much covered under law.
The sexual harassment at work.
See, there are a couple of things. Let me clarify. जैसे आपके केस में इस ढंग की बातों में, अगर मान लीजिए कि आपने कंप्लेंट किया होता,
तो let's ask.
आपने तब नहीं किया।
मतलब उस समय ऐसा हमें एहसास नहीं था, हम डरते थे ना, क्योंकि वो लोग खुद मालिक लोग हमें फंसा सकते थे, पुलिस चोरी का इल्जाम लगा देंगे, ये करेंगे, वो
करेंगे। अगर कंप्लेंट कर दे, अगर मान लीजिए कंप्लेंट कर दे, तो उसका इलाज कानून में है। ऐसा नहीं कि इलाज
करना मुश्किल है, बहुत मुश्किल है फॉर एनी पर्सन हु इज एजुकेटेड एंड नोज द प्लेस, द लॉज। But what about their peculiar situation? Where to go? Even the sexual harassment at workplace talks about a body at the district level where they can go. But ask any domestic help, do you know about this body?
No.
They will not know.
I agree entirely.
एंड और देखिए एक बात है कि जैसे कि यहाँ आप भी एनजीओ से हैं, आप भी मैक्सिमा जी, आप डोमेस्टिक वर्कर्स फोरम से आए हैं। जब सोशल वर्कर लोग जाते हैं और किसी को बचाने निकालने की कोशिश करते हैं, वो भी कई बार फंस जाते हैं कि कोई उनके खिलाफ कंप्लेन करते हैं। तो जब वो नहीं कर पाते हैं, जिनको बहुत चीजें मालूम है, तो फिर जो काम करने वाले हैं वो कैसे कर लेंगे? तो
and also she pointed out she was in need in a dire situation. She needed help, so I don't know how much could she have actually just left
So
the
one
job,
of the
which is what
mandates
she
of
did.
this law will be to give them access to justice systems and where they can access help.
But it's not always, it's just stories of inequality that you hear in our homes. There are also some stories of opportunity. Let's go across to Baby Haldar. Baby, आप एक writer हो, लेखिका हो, और actually she's a best-selling author from what we know. और मगर उससे पहले आप घर में काम करते थे, staff, किसी के staff थे, correct? ये कैसे हुआ, बताइए।
पहले तो ये बताना चाहूँगी, हर पढ़े लिखे लोग समझदार नहीं होते, और हर अनपढ़ लोग भी समझदार
हो सकते हैं।
तो मेरे साथ हुआ है, मैंने कभी सोचा भी नहीं था मेरे साथ ऐसा होगा। मैं कभी नहीं सोचा जो उनके साथ रह के, उनके पास रह के उनके बेटी बन सकूं, ऐसा हुआ। उनके बेटी नहीं थी, 3 बेटे थे, तो मुझे कहा तुम मेरे बेटी हो। मेरे साथ ऐसा घर और ऐसा लोग तो किस्मत से ही मिलता है, जो सिर्फ मेरा ज़िंदगी नहीं, मेरे बच्चे का ज़िंदगी भी बदल दिया। मेरे बच्चों को स्कूल में एडमिशन दिलाए, मुझे भी पढ़ना लिखना सिखाए।
तो आप कितने साल के थे? आप कह रहे हो कि उन्होंने आपको पढ़ाया लिखाया।
हाँ।
आप कितने साल के थे?
मैं 3 बच्चे लेके उनके पास आ गई थी।
तो आप अडल्ट थे?
जी।
आप अनपढ़ थे?
अनपढ़ तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं थे, बल्कि बचपन में कभी स्कूल गए थे, जो उसमें कुछ होता नहीं है, जो 6, 7, 8 क्लास तक पढ़ाई में क्या होता है। लेकिन उन्होंने इस तरह से मुझसे बात करते थे, अपने बेटी अपने बाप जैसे बात करते हैं उसी तरह से मेरे साथ व्यवहार करते थे। तुम आगे क्या करना चाहोगे, आगे कुछ करना चाहोगे या नहीं? तो मैंने मेरे मन की बात बताती थी, मेरा पढ़ाई उतना नहीं है, मैं क्या करूं? तो उन्होंने बोला इतने पढ़ाई में तुम बहुत कुछ कर सकते हो। हाँ।
तो बातचीत में उनको पता लगा कि आपको राइटिंग में इंटरेस्ट है।
बिल्कुल।
और
तो
आपके एम्प्लॉयर भी राइटर थे?
हाँ, उन्होंने, वो मुंशी प्रेमचंद की नाती थे। हाँ।
ओके।
तो उन्होंने मेरे बातचीतों से और मेरे वहाँ पे जो बांग्ला किताब मैं देखती थी उन पे बहुत इंटरेस्ट उन्होंने देखा, मैं किताबों पे बहुत आकर्षित हूँ। तो उन्होंने मुझे कहा तुम पढ़ना लिखना फिर से शुरू करो। तो उन्होंने मुझे किताब दिया, पढ़ो। फिर मैं पढ़ने लगी। फिर उन्होंने कुछ दिन बाद बोला तुम लिखना शुरू करो। मैं क्या लिखूं? तो उन्होंने कहा तुम अपने बारे में लिखना शुरू करो। तो मुझे नहीं लगा, मैंने उस समय उनके बात सुन के ऐसा सोचा कि मेरे जैसे कहानी तो हमारे देश में बहुत सारे हैं, कौन सुनेंगे, कौन क्या करेंगे ऐसा। तो फिर भी मैं सोचा जो मेरे अंदर इतना सारे बात है जो मैं किसी को कह नहीं सकती हूँ, कि क्यों नहीं, अगर ये इन्होंने बता रहे हैं तो मैं लिख के अपने मन की बात, अपने मन हल्का करूँ। तो जब मैंने लिखना शुरू किया तो मुझे इतना अच्छा लगने लगा, जैसे कि दिल से, दिमाग से इतना बोझ उतर रहे हैं। तो पढ़ के उनको बहुत अच्छा लगा, इतना अच्छा लगा था, वो पढ़ के अपने मित्रों को बताने लगे फ़ोन पे, चिट्ठी पे। तो उनके मित्रों भी हमसे बात करने लगे, जो बेबी बहुत अच्छा हो रहा। बहुत पहले, बहुत साल पहले हम पढ़े थे एनी फ्रैंक की डायरी, तो बिल्कुल वैसा ही हो रहा, तुम लिखना बंद नहीं करना। मेरा पांडुलिपि से उन्होंने हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट करते गए। तो एक दिन उनके जान पहचान पब्लिशर है कोलकाता में, उनके पास भेज दिए मेरा लिखा हुआ किताब। मैंने देख के मुझे नहीं लगा था जो ये कैसे हो सकता है मेरे से इतना बड़ा काम। मैं सोचती थी जो लोग लिखते हैं, किताब जो लिखते हैं, वो तो भगवान जैसे होते हैं। मुझे लगा मैं सपना तो नहीं देख रही हूँ। फिर अपने आप को चिट्ठी काट के भी देखी हूँ, नहीं ये मैं नहीं किया हूँ। फिर वो किताब जब छप के आ गए तब इतना चर्चा शुरू हुआ, इतना टीवी चैनल, रेडियो चैनल, मैगजीन, न्यूज़पेपर, घर पे तो मुझे टाइम देना पड़ता था, इतना चर्चा होने लगा।
तो बेबी आपकी बुक अब 12 लैंग्वेजेस में ट्रांसलेट की गई?
12 लैंग्वेज में नहीं, सॉरी, आप शायद आपको पता नहीं है।
कितने
25 लैंग्वेज में हुआ है।
I stand corrected. आपकी किताब 25 लैंग्वेजेस में ट्रांसलेट की गई है। Congratulations। और आप बुक टूर पे गए हो, पेरिस को गए हो, हांगकांग, फ्रैंकफर्ट, सब जगह गए हो। तो आप कह रहे थे कि आपको नौकरी से टाइम निकालना पड़ा, तो फिर भी आप इतने बड़े सेंसेशनल हो गए, आप प्रोफेशनल राइटर हो गए, फिर भी आपने चूज किया कि आप फिर भी घर में काम करोगे?
नहीं, मेरा अभी उतना मेरे तातुस, उनको मैं तातुस बोलती थी। तातुस मतलब बाबा, वो पुलिस भाषा है। तो उन्होंने कहते थे जो अभी बच्चे भी बड़े हो गए, तुम्हारा घर भी बन गए, अपना काम पे ध्यान दो। तो मैं अपने जगह पे अपने कोलकाता में शिफ्ट हो गई।
आपकी बेटी भी है आपके साथ?
जी।
कहाँ पे आपकी बेटी? ओह हाय। ओके, ग्रेट। सो आप क्या कर रहे हो? व्हाट आर यू डूइंग नाउ?
अभी मैंने जॉब करना स्टार्ट किया है।
कहाँ पे?
इट्स क्रायो विवा, International Cord Blood Bank.
What exactly do you do? What did you study in school? Tell us something about your background.
Actually, अभी मैं जिन लोगों के साथ काम कर रही हूँ, it feels better. मैं यहाँ तक नहीं पहुँचती, obviously, without my mama.
Yeah, and your mom did all the hard work so that you could have a better future than she did. Right. Which is what all domestic help do, right? That's why they put up with everything that they have to, because they want their kids to have a better life. Good. Okay, great. Congratulations. Thanks so much. Obviously, you're very proud of your mother. Let's quickly go across. We're out of time, so let's quickly get closing arguments. Let's start with you, Nikhil. What do we need to do to change and bring about dignity of labor for our most vulnerable section of our society?
In a sector which is highly unregulated, even laws and policies will be of little help. So the people who are practicing this, people who are into this profession and are working towards making this profession a profession, will be, I suppose, playing the most important role here. And if we can do that, probably change will evolve slowly. So, but all I want to say is that we should not over rely on laws and regulations when a sector is highly unregulated.
Okay, don't expect too much from laws and regulation. Amalkant, can we actually have a day when we have a minimum wage for labor in India, domestic workers?
Slowly and gradually it will come in the cities, and he is correct. Even if we have the law, the problem doesn't get sorted out. I think the mindset is very, very important. Like for example, we have got nearly 300 organizations who are now in the process of working with us, which means good number of domestic workers can be carried. I mean, including placement agencies, including trade unions and associations. Yeah. So all of them will create an atmosphere, and that atmosphere is very important.
Ravi, Nikhil says don't depend too much on legislation in an unregulated sector. That would mean that everything that you've worked on all these years and what you're working for really counts for nothing.
No, there should be a law. Legislation is the triggering point actually. Of course, people like who are providing services, they can only work when there is some legal infrastructure there. People have their rights, employer and the employee are accountable, and it will come under a legislation. Just like you see the Sexual Offences Act, where earlier children were sexually abused, nothing would have happened. Now there is huge number of cases. So legislation is must, that is the triggering point. And then all these things can happen.
Yeah. Amrita, Tripti's book at one point says that there are employers who worry or are wrought with guilt about spending money on an Italian meal at a 5-star hotel, more money than they spend an entire month on their help. You think there's that kind of guilt amongst employers in India today?
I'm sure there is guilt, because that's just, you know, how we've got such disparity in our country. But I don't think that in any way helps the domestic worker to have that kind of guilt. I think what would be helpful is we all started thinking of our domestic workers as our employees, and separate that sort of sense of obligation and what they owe us, and realize that they actually don't owe us, and that they work for us and we owe them in a very professional equation.
Tripti, last closing words to you. What can we do as a society to change the situation, to make it better for domestic help?
One is you do need a law, because it sends a message that the government cares about this, and until the government sends that message, regular people are not going to care about it. But I also think it's really important to remember that we all have these faces we show outside the house and in the house, and we should really try harder to reconcile those two sides of us, because it's not just that there are some bad people out there treating their workers badly. I think even people among us who feel that we're very progressive and feel that we're very good can also be treating the people who work for us badly. And so I think it's not someone else's problem, it's your problem and it's my problem, and we have to think a lot harder about it.
That's right, it's our problem, which is why we're discussing it on We the People, and we'll be back next week. If it's a problem, we'll speak up about it, but we also believe it's very important to listen to others. So until next week, we'll do more of the same. Join us then, and thank you all
for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.